Hi, my name is Renee Barsa, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist here in Santa Barbara, California. November 13th, 2008 for me started like any other day. I got up in the morning with my dogs and got ready for work and headed down the mountain into Santa Barbara, just like I would have any other day. And on my way home that evening after work, I was driving home with my dogs across the mountain and got multiple messages from many of my friends saying, where are you, where are you, get off the mountain, the mountain's on fire. And it was just one of those, how could that be, moments of my life. And came around the corner and saw it open up in front of me. The entire mountain outside of Santa Barbara was on fire, including the area, what looked like the area where my home was. And we had been trained on fire and evacuation drills for years, living up on the mountain in a high fire danger area. And so I went to the area that they had always said towards the evacuation route and made it down to that intersection where the evacuation route was supposed to be. And there was a police officer there with his sirens going and his lights going on his car. And he stopped me there at the intersection and he said, came up to me and said, you're trapped, there's nowhere to go. The road behind you just closed, the road in front of you just closed, and the evacuation route isn't open. There's nowhere to go. And he turned around and walked away and went back to his car. And I stepped outside of my car and looked up, and there was this 100-foot wall of flames coming down the mountain at me at that intersection. And it was unbelievably overwhelming. There was 90-mile-an-hour winds, this hot wind, ashes blowing, dark, darkness all around except for this glowing mountain on fire in front of me. And eucalyptus limbs were just bursting from the flames, and it was just so overwhelmingly intense and just jaw-dropping moment. And looked back in the car, and there's my two dogs sitting in the car with me, and it was just one of those, what do we do? Where can you even run? It's moving so fast. It was so intense. And this man pulls up and comes out of his car and walks up behind me and says, did he just tell you that you're trapped? Did he just tell you have nowhere to go? And I said, yes. And he said, follow me. I will guide you out. Turn around, follow me, I'll get you out. And we got back in our cars, and he knew this back alley route over Conejo Road, which is this little alley road. I would have never been able to get out through there. There were multiple turns and curves and little alleyways that he led me through, and I made it out to a road where I knew where I was and looked around, and he was gone. And he was my guardian angel and led me out of the flames. And my whole world changed that next morning when I found out for sure that my home had burned to the ground. And it was just such one of those intense times in my life of, okay, everything is gone, I couldn't hold my hands steady because I was in such a state of trauma. I couldn't do my work. I couldn't change my clothes. I didn't have a change of clothes or a toothbrush or anything, from that moment. And went through this entire process of trying to understand who you are without anything that you know as familiar. So other than my community and my people and my friends, I had absolutely nothing from my life before. And I went through a very intense trauma experience in my physical body as well as spiritual body, and couldn't sleep at night. If I would try to close my eyes at night, the what ifs would just plague me. This just intense, I have a very photographic memory, and so I would just feel and see all of the images of the entire experiences, see houses exploding, see limbs exploding, see animals fleeing. I mean, all these images would just plague me and not let me sleep, and would feel just all of these overwhelming what ifs. If the fire had started just a few hours later, I would have been in my bed and would have burned in my bed, because the fire started just right above where my home was. My home was in flames shortly after the fire started, and so I would have burned in my bed. I wouldn't have had any escape route out, because the first thing that happened from what the firefighters told me, was that all the trees fell across my driveway. And I wouldn't have had any escape route out from the mountain. And so all of those what ifs just plagued me for day in and day out. And I couldn't hardly even breathe. You know, every breath was a labor. Every action that I had to take was a labor, and I couldn't plan for anything other than the minute that I was in. Even just trying to find food or trying to eat was an ordeal, and went through this tremendous experience of grieving and loss and surrendering into the community around me, my friends and family here that held me in their embrace and helped me through that whole process. And part of what I was able to receive was the Ear Nada protocol. And I hadn't even realized just how much my color vision had diminished and my peripheral vision had diminished. But as soon as I started receiving the Ear Nada acupuncture protocol, I started to be able to see colors again, and I started to be able to see my peripheral vision again. And it was just phenomenal, you know, how much you get so caught up in all of the trauma that goes on that these things diminish away and you haven't even realized that they were gone. And I had been experiencing panic attacks, which were a completely new experience for me, and I could be sitting and having this panic attack and know and logically in my mind exactly what I was experiencing, having this panic attack. But you can't control your body, you just have to allow your body to experience it as it was going through. And the Nada protocol, the ear acupuncture treatment, really helped my body tone down and was able to diminish and completely stop having panic attacks after that. And it allowed me to start to sleep again. Before I got the acupuncture in my ears, I couldn't sleep unless someone was holding me tight. That was the only way that I could sleep, was if someone was literally holding me as tight as they could while I was sleeping. And I needed to have scarves around my neck. I needed to be wrapped in blankets all the time to feel safe and to feel secure. And after treatments, I started to be able to sleep without being held tightly. I started to be able to walk around without having to wear scarves. And even though it was 80, 90 degrees out, I still needed to be wrapped as tightly as I could be. But all of those things started to be relieved by the ear treatment. And I want to be able to continue to share that experience as an acupuncture practitioner, to be able to help other people be relieved, feel that same relief, and allow them to experience their grieving process in a healthy way, and allow that trauma to diminish out of their body and be released from their body in this healthy way with this treatment. And some of the things that people kept trying to tell me, they said, oh, it's just stuff, you'll be fine, everything will go back to normal. And that's one of the worst things that you could tell someone who's going through this kind of trauma experience, because life will never be the same. It will be different. It may be better, but it will be different. It will never be the same. And so as much as people would try to help by saying things will go back to normal, that doesn't help. You know, if somebody is experiencing a trauma, something you can do is ask them what they need right there in that moment, because that's where we're at. Like, we can't plan for the future. We can't plan for 5 minutes from now. We're right here, right now, in this moment, and that's it. So ask me if I need food. Ask me if I need any water. Ask me if I need a hug. Ask me what I need in that moment. Not, you know, something that they can do later on. You just can't function in the future. You have to be in the now. And so that's another way that you can be of support. You wrap people and ask them if they need to be wrapped. Ask them if they need to be supported, how they can be supported right now in this moment. Those are the ways to be of service to people who are going through trauma. You know, telling them that diminishing any of their experience will not feel supportive. And it's really hard to know that unless you've been through it. It sounds like you are being supportive, but really try to put yourself in that perspective of nothing will ever be the same. So thank you for listening and for your interest in this tremendous treatment and what it has to offer so many people around the country and around the world.